Hey guys, it's Stephen here, back with another video. Manchester City 6, Luton 2. That was a thrilling game of football. Sometimes you need a game like that, and sometimes I think a game like that could be perfect preparation for the future weeks, the toils and the slogs that a team like Manchester City have to face at this time of year. There is no denying that recently it's been really tough. It's been a difficult football. Talking about Brentford and Bournemouth and the Chelsea game, it's been a slog. It really has. All these teams so willing to put defenders behind us. So every now and then you need a game where you can just sort of let loose a little bit, score a few goals, play some good football, and just sort of let inhibitions be free and go for it. And that's what we got from this Manchester City performance against Luton. And it was really, really good fun. Of course, this is just 5 things that I took from that. If you want a match reaction, go check out last night's video where I talked more in depth about all the players and the performance and all that kind of stuff. But this is just 5 things that I took from that immediately. Please give the video a like and help support the channel. Subscribe as well if you don't mind as well. I'm so close to 70k. Let's get there very, very soon. And of course, City have just drawn Newcastle at home. We played them 3 times already this season. I think we've won 2, lost 1. It's been a really weird season versus Newcastle. I don't like playing them, but this is at home, and our record compared to St James's Park, of course, is much better. I fancy our chances in the quarterfinal there. I really do. Looking through the competition, could be United Liverpool, which is really interesting. I do fancy our chances though. But anyway, let's not look too far ahead and go back to last night instead. And we've got to start with the only place we can do. I've just put at the bottom the cheat codes, because they are cheat codes. Most teams would kill to have 1 cheat code, because it's just great, the game breakers or whatever. But we got 2, man. Like Erling Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne together, it shouldn't even be allowed. It's absolutely unfair to everyone else, yet we have the pair of them. Do you know how lucky we are to witness this? And watching De Bruyne at full flow with Erling Haaland at full flow, there's not many more devastating things you can see in world football than those two in that kind of form. Obviously, it was only Luton on the other end of it, but 4 assists from Kevin De Bruyne, 5 goals from Erling Haaland from 7 shots, and it wasn't just the fact that he scored goals as well. His overall link-up play was absolutely excellent. Like his touch, his movement, his aggression, his hunger. Guardiola's talked a little bit recently about Haaland has needed a bit of time to get up to speed, and I think because Haaland even still scores goals even when he's not his best, I think we forget sometimes that he's still a young lad and still he's had an injury. He had a couple of months out, and he needed a bit of time to find his form as well. Yesterday was the sharpest that he's looked all season. Easily. His link-up play, his work rate, his involvement, his touch, his aggression, his hunger, so good. And he was absolutely worthy of the 5-goal haul. And likewise, De Bruyne said himself that he was so surprised to come back in this form because he thought he'd be all right, but not this good. Look, he's already got the most assists, I think, for Manchester City. He's played 12 games. I mean, he's got 11. Was he 12 assists in 11 games or something like that? Or 11 and 12? Ridiculous stuff from a ridiculous footballer. And right now, Pep has realised that those two, they just need to be near each other. As long as those two are sort of looking at each other and playing off each other, good things are going to happen. Kevin De Bruyne is a special, once-in-a-lifetime generational footballer. Guess what? So is Erling Haaland. It's almost unfair that we have 2 players of that magnitude and that quality, but we do. So drink it in blues and enjoy it. I know I do. It's absolutely wonderful stuff, and we're very, very, very lucky people, guys. And second thing I want to talk about, going to my notes, is Nunes and his development. I think Matheus Nunes is starting to look really promising, isn't he? Now, I'm under no illusions that he's got a long way to go to break into Manchester City's team permanently. And once again, just Luton, blah, 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 etc. But I think it's very obvious that every now and then Matheus Nunes shows the quality that sort of ignited that interest from Manchester City and Guardiola in the first place. I still maintain my stance where I talk about Nunes in the realms of potential as opposed to being the finished product, which is weird. He's a mid-20s lad, he's not the youngest, but in terms of top-flight experience, he still is very much a baby. The way that Jack Grealish had to improve too, the same can be said of Matheus Nunes, and Grealish wasn't that young when he joined either. I think he was 26. Nunes of a similar age, of course, and I think when I watch Nunes, he isn't as finished as Grealish was, but I do see a player that has so much ability, so much drive, so much work rate, and I do think if he can match that incredible, almost unique specialisation that he's got in terms of driving forward the ball and dribbling and so on, and using that athleticism to technical ability that you usually find in the Manchester City midfield. And you've got a very special player there. And I think the signs are encouraging. It feels like he's already making the right runs a little bit better, or his one touch, or his back heels and stuff like that. It just seems nicer. His technique seems to be a little bit more measured. Of course, his development, it won't be linear. It won't go straight up. Occasionally, it'll dip here and there and whatever, because that's just life, as a footballer. You do do that. But all you want to see is that wave go upwards, basically. Even if he slows down, he'll go up again and up and up and up. And hopefully you've got a very special footballer in time. Because I like him, man. I think he's good. And I think there's a lot of potential there for Nunes to become a really good footballer with a bit of time and a bit of patience. Of course, he's played left wing already. He's played in the midfield. He's played as a number 10. And he sort of played as a bit of a false nine at one point. And he's played a bit towards the right. He's played everywhere, basically. But once again, that is life as a Manchester City player. If you can start to find his niche while also doing the basics, to quote Fabian Delph, recycling possession, not giving it away, doing his defensive work, then you've got a very interesting footballer. One guy who's done that years ago and mastered it, a player that's become truly elite. I think Luton's manager said, Rob Edwards said, he was hoping John Stones wouldn't play, which says it all about the quality of this guy. John Stones right now, look, I put Stones for Rodri at the bottom, which is a very concise way of saying that. I think John Stones is more than an able solution to the Rodri absence that's plagued Manchester City Football Club. I know Man City lost a fair bit when Rodri wasn't playing, but Stones, he wasn't. I don't think he was available for all them. Maybe one of them, he wasn't, I don't think. But Stones at his best and at his peak, he can't do the goal scoring thing that Rodri can do. But I think he's the closest we've actually gotten in terms of the intelligent use of the ball and the defensive thing that Rodri's got as a midfielder. Like, Stones starts at centre back, but when he's there, and I think the natural balance with Kovacic as well being there as well, I think it just sort of suits, I do think I do think Stones there just sort of works, because he just brings a composure and experience and intelligence to his game that he's learned over years. And I think you have to have someone in the midfield that you entirely implicitly entrust. Of course, you've got De Bruyne, Foden, whatever, but they are attackers. You need that bedrock there. And I think this is why Guardiola's been so tempted to play Bernardo Silva a little bit deeper every now and then alongside Rodri, because you need that experience. But also, when Rodri's not there in particular, Kovacic and Nunes are new. They are. And you're going to trust him the way that you trust John Stones, for example. And I think Stones playing there, I think it gives the confidence to Kovacic or Nunes or someone like that to go and do their thing at the same time, knowing that you've got that experience. Stones is absolutely elite and he's world class in that position too, not just as a centre-back. The next thing I want to talk about is the left wing issue. Now, Jack Grealish, unfortunately, he got himself injured again. I think it's a reoccurrence of the hamstring injury which has been plaguing him. And I think there's a bit of naivety and urgency and good world intention, but ultimately silliness on behalf of Jack Grealish there, sort of rushing himself back. And I think it's once again good world, but I think it's very obvious to anyone watching now that Jack Grealish wanted to come back and play football to sort of prove a point, because Guardiola's been reasonably barbed in the press conferences talking about how Jack has to prove it, and he's sort of made the odd inclination that he's maybe not been at his best levels this season or whatever. You can tell he's not been fully happy with him. So Jack, I think with the best intentions, has sort of forced himself back a little bit earlier than he should have. He's got a reoccurrence, and you could see the disappointment in his face. It looks like we could be out for a little bit of time now. I don't know how long, but it will definitely be more than 2 weeks as it was this time. He's going to be out for a while, I reckon. Maybe a month or something like that. It's just a guess, but it's going to be a notable period of time, in a period where we couldn't have done with losing him, really, given the control he brings, which means we've got an issue. Like, who do we play there? Like, Doku, of course, is absolutely fantastic. He's such a technical winger, but his form isn't electric right now. He's showing signs of developing, but he's had this sort of hype moment. He's settled down a little bit. He's not been bad by any stretch, but you can tell he's still getting used to it. And the big game against Liverpool or Arsenal or whatever, I don't know if I'd want Doku. I just don't know if I would do it. I don't think he'd do anything wrong as such, but I think the control that we've gotten so used to, that we're all craving, is the right call here. Instinctively, it feels the right thing. So what do? Do we play Matheus Nunes there, who had a game the other day, sort of linking off Haaland and trying to get his energy down the line while bringing a bit of midfield control? Do we do that? To me, I'm thinking about Oscar Bob potentially. I think Oscar Bob is the closest we've got to the Jack Grealish type role. He'll bring control, he'll bring elegance. But the one I really think Guardiola might do, and I think it might be our best bet right now, is maybe, and I hate to say it because I want him in the centre, but I think he might put Phil Foden there. I think he might do. Look, I look at the team and think, what's our best balance right now in terms of our best 11, the best players? Look, De Bruyne is back and he's playing in the centre, which means you don't really need Phil Foden central. I would carry on having Bernardo on the right, and I'd be tempted to put Phil Foden on the left because that experience and the quality. Then I'd have Kovacic and Rodri alongside each other. That, to me, is balance in the big games. Kovacic and Rodri, Batman and Robin, absolutely perfect foils for each other. Of course, Batman would be Rodri, because he's a genius, and Kovacic not quite as good, but still capable. Robin is capable. Enough of the DC references. I would say that would work in terms of like as a partnership. But then, of course, you've got the creativity of De Bruyne, the control of Phil Foden, and the bit of magic there if you need it. And, of course, Bernardo Silva on the right. I think he might do that. I don't know what it could be. It could be Doku, it could be Nunes, it could be Oscar Bob, it could be Phil Foden. We will see. Let me know in the comments. And finally, we learned that we needed that palate cleanser. We really did. Look, it's easy to sit there and watch Manchester City blow Luton away and go, why can't we play that all the time? We have to remember immediately, we played like that because Luton let us play like that. There was so much space between their midfield line and their defenders that City and De Bruyne and Haaland, they absolutely bulldozed him. I can't remember the last time Haaland had that many one-on-ones. And of course, there's an element of truth in the directness and the speed of football helped cause that. But I think largely it was down to Luton being so naive and so willing to give De Bruyne and people time on the ball. Or their defensive line was dragged all over the place. I mean, it wasn't a back line. It was like that. It was like a triangle, that back line. It was ridiculous. It was terrible, which was great football to watch for Manchester City. But we can't pretend that that's going to be something we could do in every game. But I do think it was important that we came out and blew them away, basically, because, as I said at the top of the video, it's been really difficult recently. Haaland has been sort of struggling for goals. Man City have been struggling for goals. Absolutely, 2-1-0s. It's been a massive underperformance of our XG, and our general output has been a little bit dwindling. And you watch teams like Arsenal, Liverpool score loads of goals. It's hard not to think as a City fan, when are we going to do that? When are we going to score all those goals? Last night was needed. We learned that it really was, because the mood has notably lifted, off Manchester City's shoulders and the fans' shoulders. Like, you could tell there was a bit of tension because we weren't scoring goals. Haaland and De Bruyne look like the killers that we know they are. De Bruyne back on the pitch always makes you feel good, but Haaland back in that form, the devastating early form, I say early form, we've been here for like a year and a half, crazy, 79 goals in a year and a half. Ridiculous. But that early months form for Manchester City of Lavey's first season in Haaland right now, that would be absolutely killer. So we needed that, and things feel good. Guys, the cheat codes, Nunes' development, Stones stepping in for Rodri, the left wing issue, and of course the much needed palate cleanser. What were the 5 things that stood out for you? Do let me know down in the comments. Check out my match reaction from last night. Give the video a big old like. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. And I'll catch you tomorrow for another video in a bit.